Hey, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, call hello, Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem, Rakah, Kodash. Send double honors once again to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to you. I'm out there pushing the word of Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, sincerity and truth. This is Ariala, and this is the continuation of the 12 tribes review. We're just going to keep rolling to the next tribe, and today we're going to talk about Issachar. We're going to talk about Issachar. And so once again, like I said, there's so much information. I mean, it literally took me days to go back over all the different videos and accumulate the books. And a lot of these books I can't even pull up online, so I'll use the clips that I got from the apostles, elders, different brothers. I'm just taking bits and pieces. So Lord willing, this is edifying. This is Genesis, the 49th chapter. As a matter of fact, I'll start up at 1. Genesis 49:1, and Jacob called his sons and said, gather yourselves together that I may tell you that which may befall you in the last days. Okay, so we're remembering that Jacob was prophesying over his sons about what was going to happen after the time of the Lord's return and on until the end of what we understand as this world. Now, skipping down in verse 14, it says, Issachar is a strong ass crouching down between two burdens, and he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant under tribute. Now, Issachar, when you look up the word Issachar, that word is Yashashkar, which means he is hired. Okay, he is hired. All right, and so but you go into the story of the mandrakes with Rachel and Leah, and basically the concubine being able to come along and have Issachar. And then you go into the spirit of Issachar, the so-called Mexicans. Through the spirit and power, if you can receive it, the so-called Mexicans are the tribe of Issachar. It says he is hired, and we understand Issachar as being a very, very strong worker. That's why it's described as a strong ass crouching down. Now, we've seen many times the pictures of Issachar having the picture of a donkey carrying loads, and we understand the nature of Issachar whenever they're working, man. They outwork everybody. It's so funny. I had the pleasure of brothers coming over and visiting me. I was riding with a young brother, and he's an electrician. He's still working his way up as an apprentice to a journeyman, but he works around a lot of Issachar. And he was just telling me, he's like, man, I've never seen anybody work like that. He's like, bro, he was like, you be sweating high. He said, Issachar don't even drink water. He's like, did they be in there, they'll have a sip of a Diet Coke and just be working. You be like, hey, man, you want some water? And they're like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, certain jobs they'll have done by early in the day, where he and the bro is like, I don't know how he did it. I don't know how they got that. That means they took absolutely no breaks. The only way they could have got that job done that fast, they took no breaks. They just went. Anybody that lives in little suburban neighborhoods knows how fast Issachar can get a house up. They are extremely hard workers. I remember being in the boxing gym, and I get in there. This had to be what, 7 months ago, 8 months ago. I'm out of shape, so I'll get in there. I'm doing my warm up routine, which is basically you do your stretches, you do a few rounds of skipping rope, you do a few rounds of shadow boxing. I do a few rounds of the speed bag, like 3 rounds. Then I'll do like 3 rounds of the double end bag. Then I'll do probably about 4 rounds of the heavy bag. All right. And then I'll do like 2 rounds of just sandbag work. Man, I got in there. Now, this routine, just to get through that routine, probably takes you. You're hitting 10 to 12 rounds of each circuit that you're working. So each bell is 3 minutes. So you're getting through at least 10 bells. Like anybody that's box, it's ding ding ding. You move, and then Issachar, I got in there. Issachar skipped rope for the whole time I did my warm up, and then he got into his warm up. By the time I was starting to do calisthenics, do weights, you know, and then finally start doing some mitt training, he was still skipping rope. So and anybody that's sparred or boxed against Issachar knows that you ain't gonna just get in there and box him. He's gonna work. You're gonna have to stop him, or you're gonna get outworked and you're gonna get stopped. So that's the spirit of Issachar, man. It's funny. Let me play this real quick. The apostles kind of talk about this. I'm gonna go back, play just a section of this.
Travel agency, before you go to Mexico, you might see posters up. If you're going to go to Spain, you might see posters of a mountain or some famous castle. Or you might see you see a poster of Mexico, and sometimes you'll see an ass or a donkey with two burdens over the donkey's back. So that's what we're reading about right now. So let's read that again.
Issachar is a strong ass couched down between two burdens, and he saw that rest was good.
Now I want to get that in a minute, but I want to play another clip. I looked this article up, and because it's such an old article, basically when you click it, it says this is old, and stuff like that. But this brother, GMS History of Yaiqua, the waterfall, that work that you did back in the day. Take a clip from what he read about Issachar and their work ethic. Check this out.
The Globe and Mail, it says, does hard work pay off? Ask the Mexicans. And I already highlighted it in this, so I'm going to read this part. All right. So it says, according to an OECD report published earlier this year, Mexicans are the hardest working people in the world, or at least in 29 of the world's most advanced economies. As calculated by the Paris-based organization, Mexicans work on average of 595 minutes a day, 5 minutes short of 10 hours. Of this time, 253 minutes, 4 hours and 13 minutes, are unpaid. Time spent on cooking, cleaning, and other everyday chores. In contrast, the average OECD work day is 480 minutes, which is 8 hours. It says, does hard work pay off? Mexicans may not always think so. Their country has the highest level of relative poverty, according to the survey, 1 person in 5. The OECD averages 1 in 10. Why the difference? In part is because much of women's work is unpaid. Mexican women work for 4 hours and 21 minutes a day more than men on unpaid work, compared with 2 hours and 28 minutes for the average OECD woman. 1 hour and 42 minutes for the average North American woman, and 57 minutes for the average Danish woman. Them crackers living good up there, man.
Boom. So when you read that, you get to see that prophecy kind of jump off the page, and it also lends to the next part when it talks about he became a servant for tribute, because when you read this in verse 15, it says, and he saw that rest was good. Now, what is the northern tribe, specifically Issachar, known for? They're known for a siesta in the early day, right? In the midday. When you look up siesta, it says an interval of sleep or repose taken at midday. Siesta, midday rest or nap. So Issachar does that, man. Issachar be working, and then they'll just pop out a lunch pail on you in the middle of it, and you be like, what? And they'll just chill for a second. And he saw that rest was good, and that and the land that it was pleasant, because look at the lands that they live in, bro. That's why it's funny that Issachar is in poverty, because when you go and you look in the land of Zebulun, you look in the land of Issachar out there in Mexico and those different parts of Central America, it's absolutely gorgeous, man. They have every type of natural resources that you need to just basically live off the land and not need anything. They have beautiful, gorgeous volcanic mountains. And then people always go to Mexico as beach destinations: Cabo, Cancun, Tijuana, different areas of Mexico. People go to lounge. It's a high tourist activity going on in Mexico, man. I'm known to shoot out there real quick, hit a beach, and come back. Ain't nothing, from Texas, it's a quick little trip. Go hit a beach, tropical weather, and the whole time Issachar is serving you, man. All right, the whole time Issachar is with a smile, serving and working. If you ever been to a beach resort, Issachar be on them cleaning, serving, and working, friendly. It's like it's their pleasure to be hired, you know. But as you read in the scripture, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. So how would that happen? That happened with the conquistadors, the Spaniards coming through. All right, really more than the Spaniards, you have the Germans. They own a lot of those cities that's in Mexico today. That's why you'll have a random German named city in the middle of Mexico. Okay, but basically Esau came in and took over, and they worked with the cartels and to control the different casinos and the resorts and all the different car factories, the tequila, the agave plants. All right, avocados, coffee. All right, it's a very, very beautiful, lush land. Okay, so these are a few of the prophetic things when you read in the scripture that show you that land and that those people are Issachar. All right, so we're gonna stay on the scriptural tip, but I want to move forward and not belabor the point for too long. I want us to go ahead and skip over to Deuteronomy, the 33rd chapter and 18th verse. It says, "And of Zebulun he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going, and Issachar in thy tents. They shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of the treasures hid in the sand." All right. So those Mayans and Aztecs, when they first came over here, they was what? They was escaping the Assyrian captivity to do what? To commit themselves to the works of the Lord. It says, "Let us go into a further country where neither mankind what." We talked about that in the first edition of this review of the tribes. So you can go back to that and we talked about that. But what is one of the things that we see that Zebulun and Issachar have? What? The abundance of the seas. And then particularly in Mexico, the treasures hid in the sand, which is what? Natural resources, oil. All right? Things that literally can make you very rich. All right? And give you the things that you need in order to be prosperous. All right? So there's a good section on this here. Like I said, I'm just going to be taking clips. If you want to go watch the whole thing, go ahead. But I'm going to take these main clips. That way you can get the breakdown. All right?
This article.
Yeah, this is from a webpage entitled Oil. It says, although explorers drilled Mexico's first petroleum well in 1869, oil was not discovered until the turn of the 20th century. Commercial production crude oil began in 1901. By 1910, prospectors had begun to define the Panuco, Ibano, and Faja de Oro fields located near the central Gulf of Mexico coast town of Tuxpan. And systematic explorations by foreign companies came to supersede the uncoordinated efforts of speculative prospectors. Mexico began to export oil in 1911. Now, there's a point down here in the third paragraph. I'll just read it.
Let's see where it talks about the foreign companies.
It says, Mexico was second only to the United States in petroleum output and led the world in oil exports.
Now, there's a story about the Lakota Indians and them being on oil land and them Edomites marrying into those families, marrying into those riches, and systematically killing out the Lakota. You know, because there's a tons of oil in America, all right. But there's oil all throughout North, Central, and South America. Everybody knows about Venezuela, but there's also oil all in Brazil, and I want to say Uruguay. All right.
By the early 1930s, however, output had fallen to just 20% of its 1921 level as a consequence of worldwide economic depression.
Yeah, so the oil's still down there, man. Now, down there in the Gulf of Mexico, they cracked the bottom of the sea right there, and they can't stop the oil.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted oil, now they're getting too much damn oil. All right? They want it, so they got it.
Yeah, they hit the bottom of one of the wells. Couldn't even handle the amount of oil that was coming up, all the pressure, man. And that's another reason why the Most High is sending these hurricanes and busting people up out there in the Gulf. Okay? So I want to get to the next scripture. Man. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 32, it says, "And the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of times, to know what Israel ought to do, and the heads of them were 200, and all the brethren were at their commandment." So you had the chief, kind of like the chief of the tribe of Issachar. They knew how to read the stars. They knew how to read the moon and the sun. They knew how to categorize and check on the times and the seasons. All right, everybody knows about the Mayan calendar and its accuracy with the moon. Okay, and their accuracy with the moon and the stars. This is one huge indicator of who those people were. All right, so let's get some information on that.
7.
Yeah, there's a couple of photos. This is on the Teotihuacan webpage from Wikipedia. It says, "View of the Avenue of the Dead and the Pyramid of the Sun from the Pyramid of the Moon." And then when you scroll down, there's another picture. It says, "And the view in the other direction from the Pyramid of the Sun."
Boom. So from these pyramids, they could calculate and watch the celestial bodies. Okay, they go all the way back to that time. I'm gonna read the scripture. This is in Sirach chapter 43, and let's start at 5. "Great is the Lord that made it, and at his commandment runneth hastily. He made the moon also to serve in her season, for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreaseth in her perfection." Now we've gone over that word moon. It would be the same word for month. All right, and this is why when you read the high holy days, it talks about on this particular moon, on the first moon, on this moon. All right, it says the moon is called after her name. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. All right, the beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of the Lord. At the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order and never faint in their watchings. All right, and so of Issachar, they knew how to watch those moons. Okay, and they knew how to break it down and let our people know, hey, it's time to fight, or it's time to rest, it's time to fall back, it's time to take a maybe fast or whatever. Okay, all of these things are signs in the moon. Okay, and then the scriptures say that when you go to Genesis 1:14, it says, "And the Most High said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." So many times we can read in the scriptures how they saw a sign in the sky, a star, maybe a shooting star. All right, maybe it's an eclipse, with a lunar or solar eclipse. These were signs for things to be, and our people took heed of all of this stuff. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go back and play a little bit more of this.
Should I go to mine?
Go to mine.
All right. Now, I'm going to go to Maya. I had, well, yeah. Yeah, I got something of interest to you, too, to tie into what you just read, dealing with the observations. The tribe of Issachar, also known as the Mayans, and their observation of the sun and the moon and whatnot. This is under Maya in the Wikipedia. It's under notable constructions. It says observatories. The Maya were keen astronomers and had mapped out the phases of celestial objects, especially the moon and Venus. Many temples have doorways and other features aligning to celestial events. That just backed up what you said about how they could look up in the skies and know certain events were coming. Round tables often dedicated to Kukulkan, and perhaps those most often described as observatories by modern.
Yep. Kukulkan and Quetzalcoatl, that's supposed to be Yahweh Shai, because Yahweh Shai came to the Americas after he left the apostles. Okay.
Now that's a whole nother lesson, okay? Because I started to go into that and I realized it was going to take me down a rabbit hole of information, because you're going to have to go deeper into Quetzalcoatl and go into all that information regarding those scriptures. Right now, I just want to focus on Issachar being a so-called Mexicans.
Yeah, reading on. It says many temples have doorways and other features aligning to celestial events. Round temples, often dedicated to Kukulkan, are perhaps those most often described as observatories by modern ruined tour guides, but there is no evidence that they were so used exclusively, and temple pyramids of other shapes may well have been used for observation as well. Now, if we scroll down, we go to mathematics. This is dealing with the calendar. It says, in common with the other Mesoamerican civilizations, the Maya had measured the length of the solar year to a high degree of accuracy, far more accurately than that used in Europe as the basis of the Gregorian calendar. They did not use this figure for the length of year in their calendars. However, their calendars, or the calendars they used, were crude, being based on a year length of exactly 365 days, which means that the calendar falls out of step with the seasons by 1 day every 4 years. By comparison, the Julian calendar used in Europe from Roman times until about 16th century accumulated an era of only 1 day every 128 years. That's pretty much it on that.
Okay, so brother went in and was talking about several books that talked about this. This book right here is the Encyclopedia of American Indian Contributions to the World. All right, and when you go down to the 24th, well, really the 23rd page at the bottom here, it talks about astronomy in this encyclopedia. All right, of the American Indians. It says astronomy is the study of the position and movements of planets, stars, and constellations. Unlike astronomical observers in other parts of the world, American Indian astronomers, let me see if I get this to zoom in, focused on events that happened at the horizon, including the rising and setting of stellar constellations, the sun, the moon, and Venus. They used a sophisticated system of astronomy developed independently from that of other cultures, which could calculate celestial events like solar eclipses. They also created, which is incredible considering the so-called lack of technology, but we got to realize that these pyramids are very, very high level technology that modern people don't know how to use. It says, they used a sophisticated system of astronomy developed independently from that of other cultures, which could calculate celestial events like solar eclipses. They also created calendar systems complete with corrections that were based on detailed observations of the cycles of the sun and moon. Indians built structures throughout North and South America that aligned to the planets and the solstices. For example, Casa Reina Conada, a cava built by the Anasazi in the Chacao Canyon area of what is now New Mexico, about AD 1100, has irregularly placed windows and niches that modern astronomers have discovered align with the light of the summer solstice. Only in the last decades of the 20th century did researchers discover that the aligned walls of a building in Zumo, a city built by the Maya in Yucatan between AD 800 and AD 1400, form sight lines to the rising and settings of celestial bodies, including Venus, one of the most important planets in Mesoamerican astronomical observations. Okay, modern astronomers believe that structures such as these either served as calendars or observatories. The Bighorn Medicine Wheel in Montana, whose spokes align to the rising of the stars in Aldebaran and Regal weeks before the summer solstice, also showed that ancient North Americans were well aware of the cyclical nature of the planetary and stellar movements. Okay, so they go in talking about, you know, how they understood and how they could read all these things, man. Now I'm gonna skip on down, just for the sake of time. For the sake of time, I'm gonna skip down and go to the brother site's page 44. So I'm gonna go to page 44, where it talks about calendars. Bear with me for a second as I scroll to it. So, you know, these guys were high level, man. And this goes all the way back to the scripture that we read in, come on, man. Scripture that we read in First Chronicle 12 and 32. But right here, where it talks about calendar, I just want to read a little bit of this. It says calendars. It says, American Indians throughout North America, Mesoamerica, and South America used astronomical observations to create calendars, systems of reckoning the passing of time. The oldest of these calendars are the stone medicine wheels in what are now Montana and Saskatchewan. The stone spokes of these wheels have been shown to align to the rising of stellar constellations at the time of the summer solstice. One of these stone wheels in Bighorn, the Bighorn Medicine Wheel in Montana, is estimated to be several hundred years old based on astronomical calculations. Features of the Bighorn Medicine Wheel align to the sunrise at the summer solstice. Other features are aligned to the rising of constellations Aldebaran and Sirius. A wheel at Moose Mountain in Canada with similar alignments has been carbon dated to be around 2,600 years old. All right, and those were a lot of those people were Aztecs and Mayans, because that empire went all the way up through Canada. Okay, showing you that they came over here with that knowledge and information. It wasn't just like it just popped up, you know, in 1100 AD. They've been had that information. Okay. It says located in relatively remote areas, they were built on high hills or bluffs that would have offered ancient astronomers unobstructed stargazing. Mesoamerican calendars were extremely sophisticated and accurate. Archaeologists believe the Maya, whose culture arose around 1500 BC in Mesoamerica, calculated these calendars. It says the Aztec, whose empire was established in the same region about AD 1100, and they don't know. All right, so just take these dates with a grain of salt. This Mesoamerican system was composed of several calendars, each of which served a different purpose. The day count was a 260-day ritual almanac used primarily to time religious ceremonies, name children, and predict the future. All right. The earliest known stone carving to display elements of the 260-day calendar is Monument 3 from San Jose, Mogoti, located in the valley of Issachar, 9 miles north of the ruins of ancient Zopedic city in Monte Alban. All right, so that's all I wanted to read on that, just to kind of go into what we read about in First Chronicles 12 and 32, showing you how connected our people were from Issachar with that scripture and reading the times, measuring the times, knowing how to go into the reading of the moon and the sun and the stars, showing you that those are the Issacharites that came over. Okay, that was them. Now I'm gonna play a little bit more, a few more clips of these videos where we get more historical facts linking Issachar, the Mayans, the Aztecs, to the nation of Israel. When they came over here, when the conquistadors came over here, they made these observations and they recorded it. They was like, wait a minute, that's a Hebrew tradition. Why are they wearing fringes? Why do they have Hebrew on this? Why are they some of the words linked with the Hebrew? We talked about that in the last lesson, but here's even more information that I'm going to show you.
Book now called The Mayas, Aztecs, and Incas: Mysteries of Ancient Civilization.
Why I didn't pull this up, and I'm just going to play it from the brothers because I wanted to pull it up, but it wasn't allowing me to go through the book digitally without having to pay, and I was like, nah, I'm good.
Civilizations of Central and South America, all right, by Mark J. Dworkin. And you know, to say this is okay, this is the Canadian Children's Book Center, but they actually got real information on the Aztecs, Incas, and Mayas. Like, I'm talking about Israelite information, you know? Alright? And this video, in part, is to that fucking idiot, too, T. Selekia. Alright? Saying that the Mexican
Let's go, brother. Wait a minute.
T. Selekia on Esau's payroll. Alright? That's another lie that must be cast down. So I'm going to go to page 36. And on page 36 it says, Mayan astronomers and mathematicians studied the sun, the moon, and the stars for dozens of generations and made detailed observations of their movements in the sky. In addition, they had very carefully studied the eclipses of the sun and the moon and could predict these as well. One of the 3 Mayan books that survived the Spanish conquest is called the Dresden Codex, and when it was deciphered, it showed that the Mayan calculation of the lunar month was amazingly accurate. Paradise, The Discovery of the Americas by 7000 BC by Jim Bailey. Alright. So let's go to page 72. Alright, it says here. It says proven tradition recalls that the first Inca arrived at Tiahuanaco after a flood, and the same story was told by the Maya. Their great gods arrived from across the Atlantic to escape the flood. In the Valley of Mexico, there was also a pre-Columbian tradition of a flood and of a Mexican Noah called Tapai. He was a righteous man who, following God's instructions, built a ship and took.
See, they didn't have just magical Noah stories. It's because these were oral tradition passed down. Now, as maybe language shifts and everything like that have happened over time, they created, the story. The story got into be where it is, but they got the Noah story because they're from that place.
On board 2 of every kind of beast. He even released a dove to find dry land. This resemblance to the biblical story can hardly be a coincidence. Another Mexican legend that bears a significantly close resemblance to a biblical story is the building of an immense tower so high that it touched the sky. This presumption angered the gods, and they destroyed the kingdom, which is
the Tower of Babel. They literally have a Tower of Babel story passed down generation to generation. Okay, why? Because they them bruised. This is the tribe of Issachar.
Tower of Babel. All right. Let's go to page 86. Here they show pyramids because a lot of Mayas and Aztecs, if you know, they had pyramids in America, and where they get that from? Egypt, because they were the ones building that in Egypt. They were the Israelites that crossed the Red Sea. You know. It says Mexico carried the same story of the Great Flood, which they called Katanama Noah, which reconstituted in Semitic Homet claims simply means flood of Noah. Down here, it says the Mexican Nahuas and the Hyksos, which were Israelites, built identical ziggurats and decorated them identically. It says it is worth noticing that Nekosheth was Hebrew for bronze, that Adel and Seth were two names for the same God, that in the Bible Enoch was the son of Seth. May not bronze therefore be the source for the name of the third or fourth largest city in the world at that time, Tenochtitlan? Alright. And then let's go to page 360. Here it says, when the Spaniards had conquered Mexico and Peru, they were more than a little surprised to find so many of their Christian practices part of the Amerindian religions. William Prescott, the great U.S. historian of the Spanish invasion, comments, one is astonished to find so close a resemblance between the institutions of the American Indian, the ancient Roman, and the modern Catholic. It says he points out that Papa was Mexican for high priest to be compared with our Pope. It says,
boom. All right. So he goes into all of those things, man, showing you more and more and more the connections that Issachar has with the truth. More into it from the apostles and just give more layers.
You had something to say?
Yeah, this is from the webpage Teotihuacan. Underneath religion, it says the religion of Teotihuacan was similar to those of the Mesoamerican cultures. Many of the same gods were worshipped, including the feathered serpent, the Aztecs Quetzalcoatl, and the rain god, the Aztecs Tlaloc. The dominant civic architecture is the pyramid. Politics were based on the state religion. Religious leaders were the political leaders. And it's interesting to note that Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan means basically the same thing, which means the feathered serpent. Right. So.
Now, in the book of Psalm, the 68th chapter, it speaks about the, Psalms, the 91st chapter, it speaks about the angels coming down and their feathers, their hands. That's in Psalms 91, that's in Isaiah and all that. We're going, this is not entertainment, this is serious study. So if the Most High gave you that serious mind to get into serious topics, well, you in the right place. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right, go ahead.
Psalm 68:13. Though you have lion among the pots, yet shall you be as the wings of a dove covered with silver, and her feathers with gold, with yellow gold.
Yeah, because like I said, Kukulkan and Quetzalcoatl means feathered serpent. All right.
Mm-hmm. Now they kind of show you that in the movie Black Panther, the second Black Panther. All right, which he was supposed to be a reincarnation of Kukulkan. All right. I'm gonna see if I tried to find several clips. I'm gonna play this a little bit just to give you a little glimpse and show you him with the feathers. And he was extremely, extremely powerful. He has spiritual power, man. All right. And the Mayans and Aztec people, the Mayan people worship. They show him with the feathers.
He called me Namor because because I have no love for the surface world.
I don't know how well you can see this, but it's going to show him coming from under the water, flying. But listen to what he says.
Stop! Right there! Who are you?
I have many names. My people call me Khan, but my enemies call me Namor.
See? And so they depicted it a bit here in the Black Panther movie, what the apostles are reading about, okay?
Now, if you go to the book of Isaiah, the 6th chapter.
Now, they're going to touch on it in Isaiah, the 6th chapter, break down that word. Basically, just to get, I'm going to get straight to it. When you go to Isaiah 6, you look this up, all right? Isaiah 6:1, it says, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphims. Each one has 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. Look this word up. You look this word up, man. All right. Sharapium, right? Serpent, fiery serpent. See that? Poisonous serpent. Let me see. Mystic being with 6 wings, human hands, and voices that attends upon the Most High. And there's multiple places in the scriptures where this is mentioned, and so you can see that this is being mentioned in ancient Aztec and Mayan tradition. These scrolls, these scriptures. All right? Let's get to it. I'm going to go to this part. Yeah.
Until after the scene, all right? Okay, ready out?
Órale, mijo. This is Quetzalcoatl, the great Aztec poet king.
That's supposed to be Yahweh Shai, but they made him look Mexican. They gave him a Mexican look. Let's go back to it again.
Órale, mijo. This is Quetzalcoatl, the great Aztec poet king. He ruled the kingdom of Aztlan that was from Mexico all the way up here to Califas.
Sexy mamazota.
Canipas is the Americans.
I'm gonna teach you all about Aztlan, because this vato's coming back someday to reclaim the Raza's kingdom. Yeah?
Say he's coming back someday to reclaim the kingdom. Showing you what the apostle was saying, how he came over and Yahweh Shai was basically prophesying, you know?
Why do you put my initials on?
Because you helped me, say we did it together, carnalito. You.
That's why they also have the image of the chariots. All right? Because the Lord came over, man.
Here you go.
All right, so let's come back. Now, this is what I want you to go to. Go to the last, I think it's the last tab where it goes into Quetzalcoatl. That's Quetzalcoatl? Okay, right. That's what I want you to get. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a webpage entitled Was Mexico's God Quetzalcoatl Jesus Christ? By Jean D. Matlock. Over 40 years ago, I discovered I could use linguistics to prove the Hindus.
Scroll down. There's a key point of this paragraph. Hold on, Fox. Yep. Okay, this right here. right here.
Okay. All right. Quetzalcoatl himself wore a robe lined with crosses. The idols in the interiors of the temples where he was worshipped were crosses, as well as the paintings on the wall. The Borgia Codex shows Quetzalcoatl and other humans crucified with him. I will just present in this article those of Quetzalcoatl and children, and you'll see the pictures. The boat.
Go ahead.
This is chapter 5 on page 73. It's called Among the Quetzalcoatls. The Quetzalcoatl of the Mexican Valley documents was never blonde or fair, as stated by the friars, but virtually always pictured as black-bearded, and in illustrations had his face painted black.
So that's plain, man. So now, like I said, the brother read that paragraph right there, and it mentioned the Borgia Codex. The Borgia family knew about the tribes being over here. It tells you about the wings.
All right. So, the apostles and elders going in on that point, man. So, Lord willing, that was edifying. I'm going to close it out with this last clip of Glenn Beck going and showing you the connections of the ancient Israelites with the Aztecs and Mayans, and showing you the science of the pyramids and the connections and so on and so forth.
Is made up of 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet, 606. It's made up of stades, exactly the same. Now, if that's not interesting enough, look at the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza. If you take the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the slope is 51.8 degrees. Let's go back to the earthworks. If you measure the line that goes straight through the center of the structure, right here, and then you go true north, it's 51.8 degrees. That angle is exactly the same angle as the pyramids of Giza. It is the same math, the same calculations as ancient Egyptians. Let me show you one more connection. In 1860, David Wyrick, he's a guy who surveyed the Newark earthworks. He was digging into a mound near those earthworks, and he found a wooden coffin made of oak. They opened up the coffin and found a skeleton of a man holding a little box that was about 8.10 inches in size. The box had been cemented shut here. This, by the way, is sitting in Ohio. Well, he opened up the box and he found a little man inside, a little black stone. They took it to scholars and they looked at it. The man seems to be carrying something, and there's writing here at first they couldn't recognize. The writing is, they thought in 1860, some sort of Hebrew. Well, finally, about 20 years later, they found some rabbis living in the area, and the rabbis looked at that and they could read it. They said it was an old kind of block Hebrew, and it was a rendition of the Ten Commandments. Now, this is another piece.
It was the Paleo Hebrew.
Block Hebrew. They said they'd never seen anything like it. Mainstream archaeologists at the time called this a hoax. But then in 1900, or just about after 1900, in Israel, they found the same block-style Hebrew writing. Mainstream archaeologists still dismissed the findings. They found it in Israel, and they found it in Ohio. But there was another stone that they found that they couldn't argue. This is the Bat Creek stone. It was found during the course of an official Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand the meaning of the writing on the stone. They thought it was Cherokee, since it came from Cherokee country. They didn't realize that it's actually Hebrew. They had published this originally upside down. They threw it in a box at the bottom of the Smithsonian, put it in the basement. Many years later, a scholar took it out of the box, looked at it, and went, oh my gosh, it's upside down. It's Phoenician, ancient Hebrew. So what's going on here? What is that about? Where is that history? I'll show you in a few minutes, and we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to show you some more things that the Smithsonian, science, government, commerce colluded to erase. By the way, I want to thank the directors of the documentary Lost Civilizations of North America for bringing these stories to my attention. I was blown away. To find more, visit the website lostcivilizationdvd.com. Here's the thing we should be asking ourselves. I don't know the story of these. Do you know that? Did you know that? Do you live in Ohio, and did you know that?
And the Edomite said in that clip that the Lord's name is Yahweh. All right?
Again, Don. He starts writing again. He keeps on going. Somewhere along the line here, he realizes, oh shoot, I forgot a commandment. I just went from delivery from Egypt and the house of bondages, and or slaves or whatever, servants, the house of servants, and I started right into not making yourself a idol. You know, I started right into that, and then he realizes somewhere along the line, at what point, like it looks like he continued to write, not to take up, not to uphold, et down here. That's missing. The aleph is gone. The ta is there. Et Shem, Yahweh, the name of the Lord. Don't take up the name of the Lord. Yeshua, for not, or to nothing. Don't take it up to nothing. To vanity, to or for.
You know, Esau said that, man. So Esau knows the truth. All right, he knows the truth, man. You know, but as you can see here on the top line, you know, some Edomites got an engraving tool, a sandblaster, or some sort of tool to basically scratch off the top line. All right, but we can still pretty much see what it says. All right, and we can still translate it. All right, the first word. Well, we're just gonna go, you know, read the words as we go along. All right. Anakia, I am Yahweh, the Lord's name, the Most High's name. All right. Alayaka, your God. All right. So I am Yahweh, your God. Ashar, that. Ma Wataza'afyaka, which brought you Ma Arataza out the land. See, Matazar, this Edomite